Hello, I'm the Angry Spork. We've seen that usually crossovers will get 2 volumes, so each character or group or team can swap top billing. It's pretty rare that you might see 4 crossover stories, but that's what we're looking at today. I'm taking issue with G.I. Joe vs. Transformers, Part 4, Black Horizon. Scripted by Tim Seeley, as with Part 3, with art by Andrew Wildman, Wes Gioba, sorry if I mangled the name, and Art Lion. Now in 2 volumes, each 48 pages, let's see if Devil's Due Publishing's final hurrah with this concept makes us want to turn the page, or turn our heads. The cover is kind of interesting. A bunch of humanoid soldiers with funky bladed weapons swarming Optimus Prime. He could probably swat them away or call the Orkin Man, but I'm wondering if he's going to let them have their moment and ineffectually try stabbing him. The credits page shows a couple alternate covers. The one with Pythona scratching out an Autobot symbol is pretty neat, in an ominous kind of way. Cover B shows Unicron behind some denizens of Cobra-La, which fittingly promises what they've been teasing since the end of Part 2. After a recap of previous installments, the current situation is as follows. Some months after Part 3, Hawk quit the Joes due to the Serpent OR project being the result of government misuse of Cybertonian tech. While the Autobots secretly monitor Earth for any further abuses of that nature, Hawk has been having visions of a dark future, starkly contrasted against Optimus Prime's hope for a new golden age. It's looking a lot less like gold and more like aluminum dipped in cheap bronzer. We begin in the Himalayan mountains circa 1978. Where Joe Colton is one of 3 people trekking across the snow to find cover from a General Mihai, when several planes begin firing on them. Adventure Team, run! Adventure Team, run for your lives. Those gunner planes are looking to make you die. With Joe Colton, Chalkpaw, and some dude. Did you back the bazooka, Adventure Team? Another of the group, Chalkpaw, is in direct enemy fire, but is saved by the as-yet unnamed man's metal arm. Looks like being an atomic man has its perks. Yes, being an atomic man totally explains who he is and why he has a metal bulletproof arm. You know, there are plenty of comic book characters who can turn into metal, are made partly of metal or entirely of metal, and none of them have atomic as some vague qualifier in their power set. Is this guy's power to change the atomic structure of his body, such as into metal? I don't know. I figured this guy's a reference to the old G.I. Joe toys from even before the 80s cartoon. But the comic never explains it. For the rest of the story, this guy goes unnamed. And we've barely begun. The 3-take cover as one of the enemy pilots contacts his commanding officer, asking if he wants any of them alive. But Mihai's sick of Colton's interference and okay's wasting the lot of them. Before the plane can fire a missile, it's struck by some weird yellow clay-like goop. Ah! The Play-Doh has betrayed us! My one regret is not being more evil! Unusual aircraft appear to pursue him before his cockpit is ripped open by the winged warrior and 4th-place Cobra-La beauty pageant contestant, Nemesis Enforcer, who gives an evil smile and growl combo, while Colton can only wonder who these newcomers are. Chalkpaw is rather panicked, mentioning Cobra-La and insisting they leave. But they're then confronted by a large, sword-wielding, skull-faced figure whose speech bubble is colored like a Decepticon's. You will go nowhere, intruder, but to your graves. Look out! A fan design of Skeletor has somehow escaped DeviantArt, and it's out for revenge! The Atomic Man deals a mighty uppercut, but is swatted away and then stabbed in between panels. Ah, my blade has missed the taste of blood. Considering this is an alien robot, it must have been an acquired taste over some time. Anyway, Bludgeon is ordered to sheathe his blade by Pythona, surrounded by armored goons, and saying she wants the other 2 alive. I'm well overdue for a new pet. Yes, and why is that? Because you don't take good care of them, and they end up running away or dying of starvation. Your goldfish, your cat, that hamster we caught sending intel out of Tibet,
You're just not up to the responsibility right now, young lady.
In present-day Denver, Colorado, Hawk wakes up, eyes glowing blue after yet another rerun, as he put it, of a vision shown to him by the Matrix of Leadership, an apocalyptic future with humanity extinct and the voice of an angry, godlike entity. This rerun is the series finale.
And yet somehow it's less controversial than the last episode of Game of Thrones.
As impossible as it seems, he's trying to accept what it is the Matrix has been showing him. And hey, now he can turn on the TV without a remote.
But he still can't get the VCR clock to stop blinking 12. That's right, we've got jokes about obsolete media devices. Nothing more topical than that.
His eyes fade back to normal as he contemplates calling someone named Carol Lee, someone that would make him feel less alone, that he doesn't have to bear the weight of everything. Then the news mentions continuing indictments in the Area 52 scandal, including Hawk's accusations. Independent investigations haven't turned up any evidence of alien robots, whose attack on Washington, D.C. is apparently about a year old at this point, leading some to speculate that perhaps the ex-Joe is either a traitor or nutty cuckoo banana bonkers. And it looks like that call to his lady friend is not going to happen. Later, he's invited the newswoman from TV, a Miss Allen, to his home for a more private, no-cameras interview. He doesn't care to debate the issue of attacks by Cobra, rather is more concerned about the government lying to the American people.
Can you remember a time when a remark like that in a comic book more than 10 years old did not have painfully analogous parallels to current-day real life?
He suddenly gets a transmission from the Autobot skids. Somehow. I guess merging with the Matrix lets him receive electronic communiques just like he controlled his TV. There's an emergency they need to pick him up for, so he cuts the interview short. The reporter asks how he expects to prove he's not insane without a proper chat with her, and the answer is to watch the Colonel literally get beamed up by the Autobots' flying saucer, Cosmos, and suggest they reschedule. We go to Cuba, where Destro is finalizing a deal with a man for the purchase of Cobra snake mechs. 8 now and the rest in a few days. The deal is interrupted by the Autobot cassette Eject, blasting Metal-Face's guards with the sound effect Zork.
Zork? What is Zork? I didn't say Zork.
Destro issues an attack command and the snakes target the much shorter Autobot, who comments like it was a sports game, which I guess was just his thing back in the day. I'm gonna take down 8 snakes myself, and not a cheerleader in sight.
Probably because you didn't offer any hazard pay for them to wear short skirts and playfully jump around in the middle of a battle. Though I kind of wonder if he's talking about human or robot cheerleaders. Has Cybertron achieved pom-pom technology yet?
Destro attempts to escape using his out-of-shape buyer as a human shield, but he's soon met by Prowl and Sideswipe, ready and willing to arrest him. But he has a squad of flying goons firing armor-piercing rounds to back him up. Can't say the guy doesn't think ahead. Between their injuries and a complement of incoming G.I. Joes, the Autobots are ordered back, meaning Destro gets away yet again. At the very least, mechs can be seized by proper authorities and the buyer is left to be arrested, with Cosmos nicely asking him not to buy any more illegal weapons. A bit later, Hawk is explaining that despite his resignation, he knows there are good people within the Joes, and doesn't want any confrontations with them given that he and the Autobots are conducting rogue operations. He's interrupted by Firewall, the scientist we saw in the previous story, saying she's trying to decrypt a strange signal from the wideband frequency monitor, and then an eerie voice from Abernathy's dream begins echoing for all to hear.
I return. I think I left my jacket here. It's an Adidas, black with yellow trim.
On Cybertron, Optimus has been made aware of the strange signal on Earth and, given his familiarity with the Joes, feels he's best suited to investigate. With Cybertron peaceful since Serpentor's defeat, Ultra Magnus will be in charge. The dissenting Hot Rod figures anyone could go, and that Prime is afraid of losing another soldier like they lost Bumblebee. Prime pauses, looks back a moment, then continues to the space bridge.
You're a good kid, Hot Rod, but sometimes you just don't know when to stop.
Although, the more I think about it, maybe you're not that good. You're kind of a waste disposal port. Frankly, I'd rather have Wheelie on my team than you.
Within Cobra-La, Pythona is informing a prisoner that Dr. Mindbender activated a long dormant signal, reaching the depths of space, and begins asking taunting questions, like how surprised humans will be when they're eradicated, and how the captor feels being the only one that knows about the secretive Serpentile Society. Not getting a reaction, she decides to feed him to Unicron last, promising to return later, and a splash page reveals the prisoner to be G.I. Joe Colton. Only one who knows just kind of reignites my question about how Cobra commanders seem to know about them in the Art of War arc. But moving on. Duke, Lady J, Snake Eyes, and Flint are overseeing cleanup of the disrupted sale of 400 snake mechs to the Cuban government. Something of a debate stirs, like how the Autobots don't seem to trust them, and Flint's suggestion that Lady J only contradicts him to resist kissing him.
Yeah, haha, nyuk, nyuk, nyuk. Look, we've seen this before. Two characters that seem very adversarial, but they want to make out, they want to be in a relationship, blah, blah, blah. It's a lot less endearing and convincing when we don't have much of a vibe for their relationship in previous installments, since they barely had any contact to begin with. Heck, we've barely seen Flint himself. He's barely appeared throughout any of these crossovers, and I can't say he's accomplished much.
Which makes it all the more surprising when he gets a call from Hawk, who needs someone trustworthy in Tibet. I guess Duke's out of the question, since he's probably commander of the Joes now. Mindbender interrupts the bathing Lord Globulus, Cobra-La head honcho, because of an aircraft suspected to be G.I. Joe. The Man-Snake orders the release of the Pretenders.
Wait, the robots or the army of Michael T. Weiss clones? The robots, you fool! The clones are being reserved for a convention I'm holding next week. PretenderCon. Okay, but adding con at the end is only going to make things more confusing. Such is the way of Cobra-La!
Flint and Hawk have dropped into the Himalayas along with Prime, less than 5 kilometers from the source of the signal, something both human and Autobot matrix bearers can detect. Meanwhile, on the outskirts of the solar system, 3 different and argumentative aliens are plotting the plunder of Earth, when they run afoul of Unicron in his planet mode.
Oh, crap.
Remember, he was voiced by Orson Welles, which means he's also very demanding and really difficult to work with on set. You know, on top of devouring your planet.
Within his castle in Transcarpathia, Destro is videoconferencing with Pythona, who paid a high price to carry mushrooms in his ship. Going against type, Destro was curious why he was paid so handsomely when the peculiar cargo went down with his ship when the Autobots attacked. She avoids any details, only that the fungus is important to her people, and says goodbye, leaving Destro with a bad feeling about all this. Maybe he should have paid closer attention to the Doom All Humanity section of the invoice. As Pythona explains to Mindbender, the shrooms were actually eggs from a creature called the Nyarath, eggs that secrete a spore the mother can detect from miles away. The Autobots entered Destro's ship, thus allowing themselves to be tracked by the Cobra-La forces, sealing their doom. But when were they on Destro's ship? Is this Destro's ship? Because there's nothing to indicate that. It's very confusing. Did it happen off-panel or what? Anyway, off the coast of California, we find the Nyarath, actually quite big and I guess able to fly, and a shell that can hide the Decepticons aboard from detection. Meanwhile, on the ocean floor, as Eject enjoys a reality show about fashion, Firewall admits to Prowl she's uncertain about Prime and the others going to Tibet alone. All Prowl can offer in terms of wisdom is to trust in Optimus's judgment, even if it can be trying at times. Skids bursts in, saying they've been infiltrated somehow, just as he and Sideswipe are felled by the aforementioned Pretenders, apparently given new appearances since they last encountered the Autobots.
Nice splash page and all, but I don't really feel any impact I think it's supposed to have. Not just because I'm not overly familiar with the Pretenders, but because this is the first time we're seeing them in this continuity. Remember, it's its own little universe, separate from the other Joe or Transformers comics that came before or may have been printed around the same time. So, if you're really super familiar with the Pretenders already, hope you enjoyed it.
We return to Tibet, where an encounter with Bludgeon is already in progress, and the skull-faced Decepticon is backed up by Cobra-La soldiers. bellowing their classic battle cry.
Why are you here, Bludgeon? What are you getting out of this? Power, immortality, and the chance to watch a world die.
You know, Hawk has apparently seen that episode a lot the last few months, so maybe if our heroes threaten to spoil it for Bludgeon, he'll call off the attack.
The red goons can shrug off bullets, even point blank from a mighty boomstick, though Hawk bets that their lenses aren't as protected. And I suddenly have flashbacks to that first live-action G.I. Joe movie. So much eye-stabbing. Anyway, Bludgeon displays a mastery of a martial arts technique that shows his foes weak points, seeming to give him the upper hand. But Prime shows he's got the upper energy axe. Bludgeon counters by bear-hugging Prime and releases metal-eating slime. And I guess it eats the color off the panel, too. Gluttonous slime, isn't it?
If nothing else, this explains how Bludgeon lost his job at Nickelodeon.
Flint, meanwhile, unmasks one of the minions, finding something so shocking we don't get to see it. Hawk sees Prime's predicament and uses his Matrix powers to incapacitate Bludgeon by uploading 11 million Cybertonian songs to his brain all at once.
Ah! All the amazing hits of yesterday and today! All the greatest bands and artists in one convenient collection, all for one low price! The savings are unbearable!
Reinforcements arrive and it's not known how long Bludgy will be out. Prime detects a tunnel behind the rock wall and decides to improvise a way in. They make their way inside and cave in the entrance before Bludgeon and the goons can follow, all observed by Globulus. He's got a serious chip on his shoulder, probably not the one with a tendril wrapped around it, in regards to unliving machines, the reason his people withdrew from the world of man. Mindbender assures that their plans are not threatened, since they have the Enforcer in case the Yeti doesn't get them. Yeah, apparently they have a Yeti. We return to the ocean, where Cosmos has barely avoided the Nyarath and is unable to raise the Ark II. He spots Eject and Firewall emerging from the water, the latter climbing aboard. The cassette, meanwhile, tells them to head to Tibet while he goes to recharge his dwindling energon and help the others against the monstrous attackers. In Cobra-La's prison, Pythona is waking her favorite inmate, telling him there seems to be an organization named in Colton's honor. Prime is with two such members, one of whom is called Hawk. To her twisted delight, the name gets a reaction from Joe, the most since Chalkpaw's death. She leaves, promising to return once she's confirmed this Hawk's demise. So Colton picks the locks to his chains, saying that'll happen over his dead body.
A hypothetically dead body that's been kept in remarkable shape over the last several years of captivity. Did they let him out to use the Cobra-La spa on the weekends? The Cobra Spa, if you will?
In the Joe's current base in the Utah desert, Firewall has hacked into their system to tell Duke that Hawk needs G.I. Joe. They need to forget about everything else, the Serpentor incident, what the U.S. government thinks of the Autobots, and their operation. In fact, forget about your date with that redhead you met on MyPlace.com. Sorry, like I said, I'm a hacker.
And what part of Hawks in Danger Needs Immediate Assistance told you to hack someone's dating profile? How did that even register as a necessity? I think the bands holding up those pigtails are a little too tight, lady.
We go to an expositional flashback, explaining how Unicron was banished from his home and sought fuel for his massive body. He prefers inhabited worlds so that, on top of the energy, he'd gain a slave labor force to maintain his form. Man, Galactus could really learn from this guy. 160,000 years back, he came to Earth and would have done the same, if not for the intervention of some non-human entities. Their origins uncertain, they relied on organic technology, their homes and even armor made of living material, as well as hundreds of acres of a special spore engineered to consume metal. They threatened Unicron with it, and he flinched.
Okay, he's buying it. So long as he thinks this moldy cabbage can kill him, we'll be in the clear.
Subsequently, a deal was struck. The strange people went into voluntary exile, shepherding the human race in secret, allowing them to grow in populace and technology until advancing to the point where they'd be most useful to Unicron. At that time, they'd signal him to return, cull humanity's presence from the world, and leave it to flourish under the people of Cobra-La. All this is read by Hawk, translating from cave drawings. He'd heard the name and seen the images in his head, but was unsure what they meant. Prime tells him not to be too hard on himself for not doing something about it. Even on Cybertron, Unicron was thought to be more or less a boogeyman, so even the advanced robots had no reason to believe that they'd be facing the Chaos Bringer. Optimus has repaired himself, somehow, but the beacon summoning the Planet Bot is preventing him from contacting his allies. And some weird yellow gunk hitting Flint in the face precedes the arrival of Bludgeon and the Cobra-La troops.
None of whom seem to be carrying any projectile weapons. So the only logical conclusion is that one of them hawked one heck of a loogie. It's disgusting, but given the size, distance, and precision, pretty admirable, I'd say.
The issue ends with Hawk preparing to make a stand against their foes, only for someone calling him Clayton to tell him there's another option. You can follow me.
And then I can follow you somewhere I can get some new pants. Don't get me wrong, I'm glad they've held up as well as they have over 20 years plus. But they're getting pretty rank. Full bird colonel, if you catch my drift.
So far, the story has been pretty well paced, with some appropriate moments of reflection to losses in previous stories. As I mentioned before, I would have liked to have seen more of Eject's fight against those snake mechs. He is showing him dodging one, and then a couple pages later seeing him walk away in one panel all victorious is kind of a tease. I think they could have stood to give us more information about the people behind Project Serpent OR. We only hear about some indictments and Lady J saying certain folks were punished before getting cut off by Flint. Seriously, is this Tim Seeley trying to make him a suave jerk, or is this how he thinks the guy acted in the old cartoon?
But hey, we still have another volume to go, so answers may well be forthcoming. Now, as of writing the script for this part, I hadn't read part 2. And I wanted to point out that the vibe I got from when Pythona told Joe about Hawk being present, I got the feeling like maybe they were setting up for a big reveal that the original G.I. Joe was Colonel Hawk's daddy. It's a cliche, yes, but it just seems to telegraph that way. Am I wrong? Am I right? Tune in next week to find out. I'm the Angry Spork, and man, I got issues.